Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I have a awesome 1 month review for the X Speedportal Plus in this launch edition electric green colorway. All right, fam, so jumping straight into it, these are a beautiful pair of football boots. I actually wore these today for a training session that was about 2 hours ago, so they are still super soft and pliable, and it'll give me a good idea of being able to talk to you guys about these. And I also wore the Speed Flow Pluses that I've broken in, those black and kind of purple bluish ones. So I'll give you guys a good feeling for what these are compared to those, and of course what these are like all around. You guys know that these have been given sort of a, oh, these are a sidestep from Speed Flow, and I actually disagree with that. I think these are a little bit better, and I'm going to tell you why. So you guys will see the progress bar along the bottom, and we're going to start today with the brand new Speed Frame sole plate. So they've updated the Speed Frame sole plate. They now have these stability wings here on the outside of the boot, which is a really cool feature, and it's probably a little bit more gimmicky than Adidas makes it sound, but it actually does give you a much better lockdown in the heel area. I find that in the Speed Flow 0.1, especially in training, I get a little bit of heel slippage going this way. So my heel rotates a little bit when I try to turn and pivot like that. With these, it's actually a little, I do feel like my heel is locked in a little bit more. That could be because of the outside and this external heel counter. That also could be because of the inside and this padded, a little bit more snug sensation on the heel area. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I do think that this Speed Frame is an update from the old Speed Frame. The old Speed Frame is absolutely exceptional. You guys know that I love those. They were on all of the Ghosted models, the Speed Flow models, and of course all of the remakes. But this one just adds a little bit of length to that Carbotex insert. So now it goes from toe all the way almost down to your heel, and the snapback you get from these is exceptional. It is so good under feet, and I think they absolutely improved on what they did before. I think this definitely gives you that little bit of extra snapback, and because of the way that they've made this anatomical, so it almost wraps. If you imagine the Speed Frame on the Speed Flow was a flat bottom like this, but then this particular one, as you can see here, it wraps up and around. So as opposed to being flat and then the upper is just on top of it, this one like wraps around like that. So it gives you a really nice feeling underfoot and makes you really feel like you're snug in the base of that shoe. And I also think they did a little bit better on the stud pattern as well. Adidas has done such a good job recently with their speed models of making the sole plates and doing incremental increases in quality without losing a lot of the structure and the snapback and the, how do I call it? The dig in. When you get into a pitch and you really want to dig in, and they know that a lot of people are gonna buy the carbon fiber FG models and wear them on AG. So what did? They got rid of a lot of the crazy bladed and chevron studs in favor of these little more triangular studs, or I don't even know what you would call these, but sort of a wonky shape that are a little more circular looking as opposed to straight bladed studs or chevron studs. And what that does is on natural grass and on artificial grass gives you an exceptional amount of pivot power, lateral stability, and forward movement. And I think they really did a good job with this sole plate. I'm a massive fan. And I think this sole plate is suitable for most foot types, definitely suitable for thinner feet, definitely suitable for kind of middle of the range feet, and of course suitable, or I guess if you don't have absolute tank feet, these will be suitable for you as well just because of the width. Don't be afraid of a little bit of spillover, see like that. So when they break in and they're a little bit of extra spillover, I wouldn't worry about it too much as long as you don't start rolling your ankle. That's something that I would just be careful of when you are doing this type of, if you are gonna wear this type of boot, okay? So as far as the Speed Frame goes, this is a 9.5 out of 10. This is right now, and I'm saying this with absolute conviction, other than the remakes, obviously, but this same Carbitex insert speed frame, this is my favorite sole plate on the market right now, at least for me. I think it fits the best, I think it responds the best, and I think it does such a good job under feet of making you feel fast and agile, and really gives you that energy return that you're looking for in a pair of football boots, right? So 9.5 out of 10. Probably the best rating I can give in this entire 1 month series. Now let's go to the heel lockdown. Now for laceless boots, that is something that you really have to be careful of when you're looking at a laceless boot. Now what they've done with this one is they have added to the padding of the inside. So instead of being one pod here and one pod there, they have now added a ton of foam on the back of that. Now some reviewers I've heard really don't like that. I actually love it. I think it wraps your foot and your ankle really well, and it does give you actually a wild amount of lockdown. When I was training today and wearing both of the SpeedFlow Pluses and the Speedportal Pluses, I noticed that was one of the biggest things, is the lack of heel slippage in this one compared to the SpeedFlow Pluses. And that's something that I think that they've improved on this. When I hear people say it looks kind of clunky, it looks kind of padded and bloated, if you will. Honestly, suck it up. Like, when you're actually if you actually went out and played in them, the performance I think is objectively, in my opinion, better than the SpeedFlow Plus. And if you actually wore these in a game at a high level, you would understand, right? It's just, if you wear them in your club games, your high school games, you're gonna notice that these have better lockdown in that heel area. And that being said though, again, take that with a grain of salt. These are a laceless boot, which means they're not gonna have the same lockdown as something with laces. So the Speedportal Point ones are gonna have probably a little bit of a better lockdown, partially because of the improved heel, but also because they have laces on them. So take that with a grain of salt. For a laceless boot though, these are really good as far as heel lockdown goes, in my opinion, and they've been really exceptional wearing them with such a pliable and beautiful knit upper, right? So very, very excited. So these, as far as heel lockdown goes, again, take this with a grain of salt. They're gonna be lower than a lot of other boots, but that's because a lot of other boots have laces, right? I would say these are a 6.7 or 6.8 out of 10. So almost like solidly above average. These are like average heel lockdown, maybe a little bit above average, right? So good heel, but again, grain of salt, these are much better as for a laceless boot than the previous generation, in my opinion. They definitely fit better. And if you actually went out and wore them for a long time, you'd see that they fit better. Okay, let's move on to this upper. So this upper is really, really good. It took me 3 hours to break in, and I'd say like 3 hours of proper wear time, and then this upper broke in and has been so soft and pliable ever since. You guys saw that on the Speedportal Point 1 review, I went like this into the microphone, and you could kind of hear how plasticky it was. That's not the case with these. These are much more knit feeling, they're much more pliable, they're much softer in my opinion. Obviously I haven't really broken in the Speedportal Point 1s, but these are a slightly different material, so that's something to keep in mind. The upper is really fantastic. I think it fits really well. It's got a great shape to it, so it really does wrap your foot well. Some people said it fits like an eighth of or a quarter size long. That could be the case. I didn't really notice much of a difference between this generation and the Speedflow Pluses when I was wearing them earlier today, but again, that's kind of a personal preference for you. So if you do find that it fits a little bit long, and because it's a laceless model, you can always go half a size down to see if it fits well for you. I know a lot of people are gonna ask me like, well, would you recommend me fit in this if I fit in that? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know your foot. Please don't send me pictures of your feet. I get that often, actually, which is kind of weird. But I tend not to respond to those because that's just a little bit strange. But I will say you have to judge it for yourself. Here's my average recommendation for you guys. If you have wide feet like me, do not worry about it being long at all. I didn't, and I found these to be perfect. My toe goes right up to the end. It fits great. I would say fits really, really well. This upper does a good job. So for wide-footed players, go true to size. If you are a thin-footed player, I would consider going half a size down. That's just something, if you're a thin-footed player. If you're an average foot player, that's where I'll leave it up to you. Then it's up to you to kind of decide whether you want to go a little bit snug. I know one of my teammates actually has the same pair of boots, and he's usually an 8 US. He went down to a 7.5 US and actually loves these. They killed his feet for a little bit, so they took a little bit longer to break in, but once they did, soft upper, beautiful, pliable, fantastic, okay? For a laceless football boot, this upper for me gets an 8.5 out of 10. It is, in my opinion, more responsive, a little bit thicker. So at the beginning, you're not gonna feel as barefoot as the Speedflow Pluses were. So it's not gonna be as crazy thin and unbelievable sensation right away. Once you break these in though, they perform really well. The Speedflow Pluses still perform excellent, but I do think once you've broken them in, and once you actually play in them in a game and in training sessions, over time, you'll realize that these have better lockdown, and they're, yeah, a little bit thicker, just by a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. You're not gonna notice it, but they are a little bit thicker, and they are a little bit more of a structured material than the Speedflow Pluses, which is gonna make your experience wearing them a little bit more enjoyable, in my opinion, because the lockdown is a little bit better. So keep that in mind. So for me, 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 for the upper, and that is fantastic. Lockdown on the upper. Let's talk about lockdown. It is a laceless boot, so it's not going to be as good as a laced model of any generation usually, unless they just straight up don't fit your feet. I would recommend don't have crazy expectations about the lockdown of these just because of this material right here. The Speedflow Pluses had this coating go all the way up and around, and frankly, I think it would have done a good job on here. The lockdown is still good. I think it's better than a broken in pair of Speedflow 0.1s, at least in my experience. That's what these have been. Just slightly better lockdown, but they're not gonna be exceptional. So for me, the lockdown on here is a 6 out of 10. So not amazing, but also not crazy bad. So that is, let's see, what else do we want to talk about? The colorway is really cool. I do like the colorway. I think these fit, I think these look really great on feet. They're super loud, and they really go well with most kits because they're so aggressively loud. I think they're very easy to see from a distance. I was in Portland, Oregon, watching the Timbers play live probably 2 days, I think 2 days ago. And I will tell you that we were in the absolute worst seats in the house, right? Row Z. And I could tell that players were wearing these from all the way down on the pitch, which is pretty cool. So very, very loud football boots, very, very cool. I love the way that these look. For me, this colorway gets a 7.5 out of 10. Not my favorite, but also well above average. I think these look great. They're simple, they're crazy Hulk green, and yeah, they're pretty cool. So that about wraps up all the features of this boot. Touch on the ball is really good. I did talk about that a little bit in the upper, but the touch on the ball is fantastic. It's super barefoot. And if you are looking for one of the thinnest uppers on the market, definitely go for these. I would say these are comparable to the Ultra Ultimates. The Ultra 1.4s are probably the thinnest and most plastic, like barefoot feeling boots on the market. These and the Ultimates are a close second, and then the Vapors to me feel a little bit thicker, but they're all still really barefoot. But these are, as you can see, just like so crazy pliable. I enjoy these a lot. If you guys enjoy this 1 month review, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you have any more questions about what these are like overall as a football boot, definitely hit me down in the comments below. And that way you can ask the questions in front of the rest of the audience so that they can also see what your questions are, and that'll be really helpful for everyone else as well. Overall, I think these boots are great. I do wish I fit in the Plus or the 0.1 models. I think the Plus models are awesome. They're a fun pair of boots to wear in training. I don't think I'll ever wear them in games simply because of my mental thing with laceless boots. In training, for whatever reason, I don't have any issue with them, but for games, I want laces. That way I can tie them over and over again, and they get tighter and tighter as the game goes on, so that I'm continuing that responsiveness, whereas these I can't adjust them at all. So that's something that just steers me away from laceless boots in general. It's not just these, but laceless boots in general in game-like situations. And I would recommend you figure out what's best for you and then go from there. Because if you are somebody who likes laceless boots, these are by far the best laceless boots. I'm saying it right now. These are the best laceless boots on the market, bar none. There's nothing better than this. There's nothing more comfortable than this, nothing more responsive. These are absolutely fantastic. So if you are on the market for these, go check them out. You can find them in a couple different colorways. I think on most websites and most Instagram retailers will have these as well. Some pretty cool colorways coming up, especially for the World Cup. And yeah, enjoy these boots if you decide to get them. Hope you like them. I love them. These will be in my rotation, and I absolutely think these crush. So if you guys enjoy this video, again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment down below any questions, and as always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.